Hello student, welcome back for the course of MBA Semester 4 International HRM. Today we are going to discuss on cross-cultural communication and employee behavior. Today is our lecture number 19, 20 and 21, and we are going to discuss the various aspects of cross-cultural communication and the associated employee behavior. So the primary objective of our today's session is help to understand the concept of cross-cultural communication or cross-cultural communication and the employee behavior. So the contents of our today's session are cross-cultural communication, employee behavior, behavioral variations across cultures. So along with different examples of different expatriate managers that we are going to discuss today. So first of all, we are going to discuss about cross-cultural communication. Okay. Cross-cultural communication is nothing but the communication in between the persons, those who are belonging to different culture. Okay. In this form of communication, a person who is sending a message that belongs to one culture and the receiver, those who decode that message, that person belongs to some another culture, and therefore whatever communication goes among these people, okay, that communication will be called as a cross cultural communication. So in this cross cultural communication, okay, there will be different sort of difficulties that they will occur due to some sort of misconceptions, okay, that exist because of these two individual persons are belonging to the different culture. So whatever message has been intended by the sender, okay, does the receiver receives in the same direction or not? So when we are talking about this cross cultural communication, okay, there will be differences that exist in the culture, okay, that may be reflected while communicating with each other. That differences are nothing but the socio-cultural values, okay, or the socio-cultural parameters, okay, by means of which, okay, which can be reflected in the form of communication. So whenever there is a greater the difference between the sender and the receiver's culture, greater will be the chances of cross-cultural miscommunication. So it is quite necessary to have more and more cohesiveness, okay, and by means of using the teamwork and reducing the disparities among the socio-cultural groups, by means of it we can reduce the gap between the cross-cultural communication. Okay. So whatever form of misunderstanding, misperception, misinterpretation or misevaluation which can be reflected in this cross-cultural communication, okay, so different sort of difficulties can be encountered in this cross-cultural communication. So therefore, how to overcome the difficulties that are encountered while cross-cultural communication? People those are belonging to the different groups, different localities, different socio customs, habits, convictions, traditions, once they exchange these values, okay, by means of using an appropriate form of communication and language, okay, we tries to provide them a forum so that they can exchange these values, and they can interact with each other. Particularly, we are facing a difficulty when we are communicating with any sort of foreign employees. So here we need to have a very appropriate form of communication that will be helpful for themselves as well as ourselves to interpret and evaluate the things appropriately. Okay, so that okay we can get the things what the person has been talking in an appropriate way. So in case of cross cultural communication, there will be some sort of difficulties with respect to miscommunication that can exist, but one should have to try to overcome the difficulties encountered in while communicating with other foreign employees specifically. Depending on that, we do try to behave in a particular fashion with respect to the organizational work, wherever in organization many different persons, those who are employing to different culture and other socio-cultural values are working. Being organization as a social entity, there will be different persons, those who are belonging to different societies and nations, they will work in these organizations. So it is quite necessary to understand the behavior of the employees and in what way that they will communicate with each other by means of using the cross cultural communication. Simultaneously, this will be helpful to enhance the overall organizational behavior and performance, specifically among the expatriates, those who are coming across the nations and from different societies. And that's why it is quite necessary to analyze the employees' behavior specifically in international context. Even these difficulties can be overcome to know about the appropriate employee behavior and in what way that we need to provide appropriate form of forum so that they will involve in the process of communication. Whenever any expatriate or foreign employees, okay, they do tries to communicate, okay, they will exchange their socio cultural values, belief, attitude, norm, okay, traditions, okay, in a very broader sense. And many of us are not familiar with their own values and other socio cultural context what exists in their own societies. So that difficulty can be overcome with the help of analyzing the cross communication analysis, okay, or we will call it is a cross cultural analysis. This is one of the very strategic initiative by most of the international firms, and wherever they are concentrating uh, by means of improving the socio-cultural relations among the different communities, and they do try to reflect their businesses in more than 200 countries, for which okay they are restructuring their organizations. They do participate in events and representing the national international activities across the world, and showing themselves, reflecting themselves as a part of the social entity. By means of that, okay, organizations are understanding how to come closer and closer to these communities and as well as the customers, and to get the businesses. And in this way they are improving the individual their individual behavior as well as organizational behavior, and so forth, the organizational performance. So in this way, okay, they tries to know more and about more about the international employees. and how to communicate with these international employees. When we are talking about this employee behavior, okay, that employee behavior would change due to some variations across the different culture. Okay, since many of the people, those who are coming from different background, values, customs, traditions, habits, so they do primarily differ in languages, okay, or their social customs, okay, and in the form of etiquettes, some body language or gestures, and so many other things. So that form of variations can exist across the various nations. So therefore it is quite necessary to identify which are that particular nation and how do we communicate with the respective employees those are belonging to these nations. So that behavioral variations can be studied in the different directions, okay, or we will call it is a dimensions, as we will discuss in the different theories of cross cultural. So that differences can be exist due to some individual differences, managerial responses, what kind of motivation has been there among that particular people, rewards, relationship, power conflict, communication, environment, and technology across culture. People do value those things which are more appropriate to them, and they do tries to communicate in what way that they will believe these different parameters, and they will behave in an appropriate way. So what things would be considered while communicating with the international employees? Primarily these important factors would be considered. So let us see these factors one by one. The first one is called as a managerial response. Okay. Even the managerial response, how does the manager will communicate with the other employees of the organization, specifically the expatriate or any other international assignees. So these managerial responses also do vary across the culture and nation and the societies. This is due to the attitude of the managers towards their employees. Okay. So what exactly has been believable by that particular manager, okay, that should be governed by the manager's own belief system, even their own socio-cultural values that should be primarily considered. Along with that, one of the very important ingredients in changing the behavior of managerial staff is education. Now this managerial behavior has been changing day by day, okay, due to the technology, due to education, and many other means of communication technologies has emerged. So even the managers today, they are quite well aware, okay, about their career goals, okay, they do participate in the activities very cooperatively with labor, okay, and delegate the things and try to live in a group in a cosmopolitan way. So they are showing themselves as a part of the group, particularly at most urban centers, wherever these different managers they try to coordinate the things so as to achieve the overall organizational objectives. While considering the example of the different types of managers, okay, at various countries, in some particular countries, say for example that, okay, in Japan, okay, So managers in Japan should be able to answer any question he or she has been supposed to be asked. If you are a manager, it is a strong belief in Japan that they should have to know each and everything. Okay, during meeting, during decision making process, they need to be answered. Okay, it should be believable. Whereas Swedish managers, okay, they are least concerned about whatever has been asked during the meetings. Okay, they least bother about it. Whereas in France, okay, managerial roles has been taught to that of an expert. They are the key decision makers, and they do guide, support as a form of the mentor and lead their organizations. Similarly, in the Virginia states of US, managers are being viewed as a problem solver. Now, considering these managerial responses, how or what has been believable in the individual country and which has been expected from these expatriate, that we came to know about what form of managerial response has been necessary in these countries. Similarly, you can prepare your own list, okay, of these countries. While talking about the other form of decision making, okay, there is a widespread differences among the people, those who are belonging to the different culture. This is due to the socio-cultural differences, okay, among the international expatriates. Say for example, okay, in Sweden, it is traditional for the employees at all levels who has to be involved in the decisions affecting them. Okay, almost all employees, those are living in Sweden. Okay, it is traditional for these employees to so as to work for decision making activity across all levels of management in the organization. Whereas in case of Pakistan, okay, such a kind of decision making activity would not be preferred, okay, because of autocratic decision making activities, and hierarchy has been followed over there. So there should be some sort of weaknesses, okay, some sort of difficulties that can encountered in cross cultural communication in Pakistan. Some other kind of differences can also exist due to the cultural differences, okay, say for example, on the basis of how much amount of time the one can take for decision making. Say for example, in Virginia state, okay, wherever the person, those who will take the decision on time, we will be considered as a good decision maker. They are said to be a decisive person. They will not make any delay in the decision making activity. It has been perceived over there, okay, and a kind of belief. Whereas in other countries, okay, taking decision on time and meeting the deadline, okay, will not be followed, okay, and that should be downplayed. In certain countries, time management would not be followed, even in India also. Whereas in countries like Egypt, more important factor has been given and associated with the time, particularly, okay, more time the decision is expected to take in reaching the decision. So more time will be allocated so as to reach the decision, and that should be an important characteristics of the managerial staff. Okay, they will keenly or thoroughly study the problem under study, and depending on the appropriate form of methodology, they will suggest the solution, but that requires some sufficient amount of time and resources. So they will conduct some research, and later on they will come up with the solutions. So in this way we came to know about the managerial responses. Similarly, with different types of other characteristics that can be exist among the societies, and the second one is motivation. We are very much familiar with the different types of motivational theories: Maslow hierarchy need theory, theory X, theory Y, Huzerberg's theory, and so on, even equality theory. All these theories are came from the societal socio-cultural values. Okay, even these theories has been proven their results during that particular period of time, and there was some changes due to the improvement in the standard of living of the masses from time to time. So we came to know that Maslow hierarchy theory has found itself applicable with the manager in the need priorities. So here that Maslow hierarchy theory has been very much popular theory. Okay, and here as soon as the one of the need satisfied, the another or higher order needs could takes place, and one can make a struggle to achieve those needs. So here we are defining the priorities of these needs and try to satisfy these needs one by one. Okay, so what sort of motivation will exactly work in the socio-cultural context of the different countries and different nations? So there will be again, how does the motivational factors will work? Say for example in Greece and Japan, security needs are more important. People those are belonging to Greece and Japan, they do primarily protect their families as well as the organizationals, their job. Okay, all these things are being quite important. Okay, and they do perform their activities very workholically. Whereas in Norway and Sweden, social needs, okay, attachment with people, with the people or social group, okay, that will work, okay, very dominantly. Employees in different socio-cultural background, they will pursue whatever form of work has been assigned to them in a different manner. Okay, so for, say for example, Indians, okay, for Indians work is not just an economic reward. Okay, for some people it will be the form of status, it will be the form of dignity. For some it may be an economic reward also. Lastly, that they will get the salary on behalf of selling the labor in the organization. But for a suppose say American person, okay, work is equated with the economic rewards. So work is nothing but what it should be gained on the basis of their whatever has been achieved, okay, in their previous credentials. So it will be considered as a form of economic reward. So employees expectations from their jobs depends on so respective culture and reward that will also vary across the culture. Once we came to know about the changing needs of the employees, similarly the employees expectation would also change, okay, due to the socio cultural values. And it is quite necessary to understand the varying expectation and the reward of the employee so that we can satisfy them very appropriately. For example, job security is more valued in some particular culture. Say for example, again in Virginia state, individual reward like recognition, promotion, merit rating, okay, that has been, even in today's socio-cultural context, it should be believable, and people are being promoted on the basis of their performance. Similarly, in case of Japan, okay, employees place higher value on group reward and recognitions. So higher payment, higher reward, as well as recognition would be there for the employees in Japan, depending on that whatever worth that they will produce for the organization. So reward system will work in this direction. The next factor would be called as leadership. By means of analyzing the overall individual behavior of the employees, the organizations they themselves can improve their overall organizational behavior and performance. Here again, the socio-cultural parameters would be more effective in directing the appropriate form of leadership among the employees, particularly to face some different sort of circumstances or situations and take their organizations ahead in these situations. So we already came to know that some of the examples which are associated with high power distance societies, okay, employees routinely expect the leader should have to make the decisions and solve the problems, and they will assign the task. So it is the task of the managerial staff which can be believable in this sense in high power distance countries. In such a culture, any effort by leader to promote participative style of the management will be opposed. People those who are not very much familiar with the hierarchies and they are working like social groups, okay, in high power distance countries, such kind of managerial staff will be opposed. Managerial staff, okay, they would tries to get the work done to the people by means of using an effective hierarchy type of system, okay, because it is a very formal decision making activity. On the other hand, in case of low power distance, okay, directive behavior, okay, by the leader will not be tolerated, okay. People will not listen to them, okay, whenever the very authoritative style has been followed while communicating with the subordinates, even with the expatriate, those who are belonging to this socio-cultural background. Employees expect the empowerment from the leader, and leader play the different roles in various culture. For organization, leadership is very essential to get their organizations ahead. Okay, and it is the leader that who can take the initiative by means of empowering the people to perform these activities independently. In certain countries, okay, empowerment would be encouraged, whereas in some other countries, empowerment would not be encouraged. Whereas in Europe, okay, most of the countries, those who are belonging to Europe, managers that they will go beyond the boundaries and they will conduct lots of experiments and most of the technological innovations that they will make with the help of this empowerment. Whereas in China, leaders are expected to remain formal and function with the formal roles assigned to them. So whatever tasks and duties which are assigned to any kind of employees in China, they will perform that roles, responsibilities and duties. Whereas in Japan, role of the leader would be more crucial. Okay, they try to work as a facilitator or as a mentor so as to improve the overall group performance. Okay, rather than the individual, rather than achieving the individual objectives. The another dimension of this employee behavior would be power and conflict. So once the employees are being supposed to be work in these organizations, and those who are in the hierarchy and those who are working under them, okay, definitely there will be some sort of difficulties that can encounter due to cross cultural communication, specifically whenever people comes from the different background, okay. So it is quite natural that, okay, to certain extent the overall organizational life could be get affected okay, to certain extent, okay, but in a longer run it should not be good for any organization. Say for example in US, okay, power and conflict are accepted and attempts are even made in the organization to create and sustain more moderate level of conflict. Such level of conflict is perceived to be beneficial for organizational effectiveness. Just like whatever form of power and conflict situation, okay, has been there, that can be resolved by means of using the brainstorming session. One can have a mutual discussion with each other during the meeting and tries to overcome that difficulty. It doesn't mean that okay, one can be superior or one can be an inferior to any particular employee. Each and every person has having the right to suggest any ideas over there. Their ideas are being welcome at various levels so as to promote the decision making activity across all levels of organization, so as to increase the overall organizational effectiveness. So whatever form of power conflict resolution process, that can be resolved very amicably, okay, by means of using the mutual discussion. Whereas in Japan, okay, Japan attempts to increase one's power are fraud upon and in instigating or promoting the conflict in considered unseemingly. Okay, if the situation with respect to power and conflict has been there in Japan, okay, here the situation makes sometimes critical, and to face that situation, okay, it is quite necessary the leader should take the sufficient initiative to overcome the difficulties which are being related with the power and conflict situation. Instead, the focus is on conformity, group harmony, and the like. Japanese managers, they are quite workaholic and they will be uh, work to achieve the overall team objectives using the team spirit. So very good form of cooperation and coordination, okay, that can exist among the group members, okay, and they try to achieve this objective with the harmony. The another dimension of employee behavior would be called as an environment. How individual person thinks themselves that they will be fitted to work in a particular environment in that organization. So environment is nothing but the overall organizational dynamics, okay, whether the person should be suitable themselves to work in that particular business environment in that organization. So environment in certain countries is stable or predictable, whereas in some other countries that is be very dynamic and turbulent sometimes due to the situations and circumstances like war, famines, okay, or some political instability in that particular business environment. For example, economies of Sweden and US, okay, they are very fairly stable government has been there in their countries, although competitive forces within them vary across the cultures, okay, due to strong free market economies. So here you will identify, okay, that many of the socio-cultural group that they exist in these both the countries, in Sweden and US, okay, they are the multicultural countries and different competitive forces, okay, that they will act together to get their economies ahead. So everybody tries to get the work done so as to achieve the organizational objectives. Environment also varies in terms of complexity. Sometimes there is a very complex business environment, okay, even in certain countries. Say for example, Japanese environment, though they are stable, but they are highly complex system. They are having very highly competitive form of manufacturing processes. These are the world recognized technologies that they were invented with the help of, suppose say, Six Sigma, TQM, okay, and many other forms of technologies that they were invented. Okay, even your quality control measures, lots of quality control measures. So sometimes that makes your business environment more and more complex. India too itself is a very complex business environment due to many socio-cultural groups that exist in our societies, and understanding these societies, okay, would not be a very easier task. So it is quite necessary to understand what form of socio-cultural background has been there in the respective country. The next factor would be called as a technological factor. Okay, how does people believe that technology? So companies are trying to focusing on the changing needs of the customer, and they do tries to upgrade themselves with the help of this technology. In certain other countries, okay, where technologies has not been preferred criteria, okay, due to again their varying culture and other socio cultural parameters. So in certain countries, okay, these countries are giving preference to the technologies, okay, because many of the advanced nations, they are initially making an innovations and making product available in certain other countries by means of using export. Countries those who are not self reliant in producing the technology, they need to import that technologies, okay, from the other developed nations. So many different international conglomerate and other international institutions, organizations, okay, they will started these activities, okay, by means of using the technological know-hows, and exchange of technology could take place. So we do generally find out that there is two types of variations in the uh, technology, and how technology could be believable. So what is the attitude towards the technology in these respective countries? So with regard to the availability of technology, there are some wide variations across the culture. Okay, some countries that they will prefer that they should have to make the technological automation within their own country. Some of the countries are not in favor of that. Say for example, some countries are highly backward and unstable to absorb the imported technology. So these countries are generally the less powered nations or least developed nations. Okay, they are not having that much amount of resources to import the particular technology within their own nations. Some countries, those who are having very appropriate form of attitude towards the technology, and they were understood that with the help of technology they can do the business. So attitude towards technology that will vary across the various socio-cultural groups within the country, even in the subcultural societies. For example, Western countries generally have very positive attitude towards the technology as compared to any other Asian countries. Okay, so ASEAN countries are primarily working on the knowledge creations, okay, and they will utilize that knowledge. Okay, nowadays we started to make the use of technology, particularly even for knowledge creation, okay, by means of using the IT infrastructure. So as we were discuss about the various parameter, the last parameter would be what? Communication. Even the process of communication would vary from the different members of the organization, as they do belong to different socio-cultural groups, and there we find some sort of difficulty due to the cross-cultural communication. Okay, so there exists different types of problem whenever we are not familiar with what particular language would be more appropriate according to their own nation or society, even what form of body language and gestures would be preferred among them. Even some interpersonal perspective. Okay, here we should have to know about language and coordination related parameters. So what form of appropriate language will be more convenient to communicate with the targeted group of people, those who are belonging to this socio-cultural, different socio-cultural group, and what form of coordination has been expected from these people whenever they are working in the organization. So here communication is not just only the exchange of thought process among the different members, okay, the sender and the receiver. So whatever has been intended by the sender, it should be understood by the receiver also. So for which we need to primarily work on these two parameters, okay, language and coordination. Language also promote the idea of the formal as well as informal communication. So let us see one by one. Language and communication. As we came to know that there are different languages in many of the nations. So across the world there are nearly 10,000 languages which has been spoken. Even in India more than 32 languages are there. So whatever forms of words, signs, symbols which has been communicated in the respective socio-cultural groups, they would have some different meanings. Okay, so different sort of vocabularies are required to learn over here, and it will not be very much simple to acquire any socio-cultural values of any country or society. So there will be different examples over here. Okay, you just refer these examples. Okay, similarly, whenever we are communicating in the with the people, okay, those who are belonging to the different socio-cultural group, we also tries to communicate using a non-verbal means of communication by means of using body language, okay, or gestures. So there are some other parameters, okay, say for example size, color, okay, and other attributes has been taken into account. So different managers, they have some different connotations, okay, while they are communicating with each other. Japanese managers, they will never say no in most of the situations. Okay, the manner in which to avoid by means of saying no is to say yes and then follow the affirmative answer with detailed explanation. There are some practices which has been followed across various nations. Say for example, whenever General Motors has introduced the car that is called as Nova, okay, in Italy it has a different connotation. Nova means it doesn't go, okay, therefore after some period the company has withdrawn that particular product. Okay, similarly in China, okay, Coca-Cola means, okay, bite the head of the dead tadpole. So there are some different meanings, okay, in their own local settings, and therefore one can face the form of difficulty in formal and with formal as well as informal form of communication, and that is why it is quite necessary to understand the both, okay, the formal means of communication and by means of using verbal and non-verbal communication across the culture. The next task would be that is associated with coordination. So whatever work that you want to get the work done to the people, okay, that can be conducted with the help of effective coordination among them. So communication is one of the key tasks that we are conducting across the countries or across the various people, those who are belonging to different people, different societies. So they would even have some different connotations, okay. And say for example, whenever any kind of Indian executives talks with any a counterpart, okay, or Germany, counterpart in Germany, or any expatriate, those who are the German expatriate, okay. So he may not only contend with the differences in language but also with the time differences of several countries, uh, several hours. So in Germany, suppose say, okay, if suppose any Indian executive is communicating with the German executive, so they will be communicating very formally in the respective language, okay, along with the time difference. Studies suggest that even when both persons in the international transactions knows each other's language, communication may still suffer. It doesn't mean that you are speaking with the French person or any Spanish person, you are well conversant with the language of the foreign country. It doesn't mean that you can communicate with each other very appropriately. Still your communication would be get affected by several difficulties. Similarly, your non-verbal communication, there will be different connotations and meaning, okay, because here we will find out some non-verbal form of activities with respect to body language and gesture, and by means of which we are communicating, and they will have different values, belief, attitude, which can be misinterpreted or misunderstood. So in this way, how much extent people are coordinating with another people so as to get the work done, okay, that depends on the kind of value system that they come from, okay, and how does that they believe that particular values. Now there are some other form of dimensions which are being related with the employee behavior. When we are talking about these cross cultural communication, okay, different authors and researchers that they were suggested different forms of parameters, particularly in business communication or and negotiation using this cross cultural context. One of the very principal research author called as Richard, okay, he has suggested these four uh, dimensions for employee behavior, particularly in his book Cross Cultural Business Behavior. So, how do people behave in the different socio cultural contexts? Let us try to understand. The first one will be called as deal focus versus the relationship focused, formal versus informal, rigid time versus fluid time, expressive versus reserved, okay. So different type of attitude and mentality could exist among the social groups, and they do behave in the different direction. Let us see one by one. Talking about the deal focus versus the relationship focus. Deal focus employees, okay, they are generally called as a task oriented employee, okay, whereas relationship focus IF, okay, they are people oriented people, they live in groups, okay, and they are more social. Whatever form of conflict arises in deal focus managers are marketeers communicate and negotiated with the relationship focused business persons. Now whenever the need arises, okay, the deal focused persons, they do try to communicate with the relationship focused persons whenever the need arises, and they do negotiate with each other. Relationship focused managers find that, okay, their deal focused counterparts are pushy, aggressive, and offensively blunt. Okay, they will believe that, okay, they will make a perception about these deal focused persons, okay, that relationship focused person, they have some different connotations, meaning, attitude, and perception towards that deal focused persons, and they will not believe appropriately. Whereas deal focused managers often consider that, okay, relationship focused counterparts are dilatory, vague, and inscrutable. Now similarly, the deal focused persons, okay, that they will consider themselves, they are less power person, okay, dilatory, they are vague, inscrutable, and nobody tries to get involved uh, in the process of communication, okay, with this deal focused person. So they were having some another different attributes towards the that cross cultural communication. In relationship focused countries, people get things done through relatives, friends, business, okay, business contacts and connections. As we are very much familiar, okay, deal focused persons are people oriented. So they try to get the work done through people only, okay, very appropriately among the social groups, from the social groups. Whereas deal focus uh, cultures value direct, frank, straightforward language, while their counterparts often favor an indirect, subtle, or roundabout style. Okay, talking about these deal focused persons, they are very straightforward. Okay, they will involve very lesser time in the process of communication and communicated directly whatever task which has been associated with them, as compared to their counterparts, means the relationship focused persons. Okay, in case of relationship focused person, they will prefer indirect, subtle, and roundabout style of communication. They give a priority to maintaining the harmony and avoid saying anything that they may cause embarrassment or loss of face to the other party. Okay, whereas relationship focused person, okay, they are quite social and they tries to involve in people, okay, and they don't want to get into trouble, okay, and try to promote the harmony by maintaining the mutual relation among them. The another kind of dimension would be called as formal versus informal. Okay, formal culture tends to organize in step hierarchies which reflect the major differences, particularly in status and power. Okay. Now, in case of formal form of communication, hierarchies would be followed. Okay, and subordinate need to follow the superiors, and there may be some sort of difficulties which can be encountered in cross cultural communication due to the status and power of the superiors. Whereas informal culture value more egalitarian organizations, okay, with smaller differences in status and the power. Whereas informal culture, they are more egalitarian, okay, they are more supportive in getting the work done to the people by means of using their involvement in the process of decision making, okay, even by means of using cooperation that they will work. So these contrasting the values cause conflict at the conference table. If both the cultures people that they are sitting on the conference table, okay, definitely some sort of conflict situation would arises. Formal way of addressing people and maintaining proper protocol are the way of showing respect to the people. Whenever we tries to communicate formally with other people, that time it has been represented that we are showing the respect to the people, and it should be believable in many of the countries. People from egalitarian societies, they are often unaware about the situations, okay, or particularly about their hierarchical structure of the organizations, and they do communicate, okay, very easily with the other counterparts. But in certain cases, they will find out the difficulties whenever hierarchical structure has been followed in the organizations. So they do take the initiative in the process of communication. They often do not know how to show the respect to high ranking person from formal culture. Okay, they are easy offended by perceived slights. They are primarily believing in team, and to achieve the team spirit, the overall organizational objective, okay, they do tries to communicate with the high ranking persons and do not show that much amount of respect to the higher authorities. When dealing with government officials in formal culture, it is important to show the respect and the difference. Even in suppose say India, okay, whenever we are talking about the government officials, okay, we are also showing some sort of respects to whenever we are communicating with them. So formal versus informal dimensions of that employee behavior will work in this way. Rigid time versus fluid time. Okay, we are very much familiar with one of the theories that we will discuss in the cross cultural theories. Rigid time societies, okay, are they are punctual, okay, and is critical. Schedules are sent in concrete, agendas are fixed, business meetings are rarely interrupted. They are very keen to their timing, specifically rigid time societies, okay, and they will follow these timings very appropriately. So you can't disturb these people, and once you tries to disturb them, okay, some sort of difficulties can be encountered while we are making communication with this particular employees, those who are following their deadlines very appropriately. They will reach on time, okay, and finish their task on or before the time. These societies are generally called as monochronic societies. They belong to the monochronic culture. They are very clock obese employees, okay, they are following the clocks, okay, they will tries to meet the schedule, okay, and worshipping the culture. So these people are very time conscious people, and they too tries to maintain their status quo with respect to time. So their appointments are fixed, okay, as well as their timings are also fixed, and they do meet in the meetings, okay, that should be also conducted on time also. So their schedule can't be disturbed. While in case of polychronic culture, okay, people those who are belonging to that polychronic culture, okay, they place less emphasis on punctuality. So they will not reach at appropriate time, and they are not being observed with the deadlines, okay. So deadlines they could not meet, but they mostly work in team. Polychronic culture do not value scheduling of the business meetings, okay. So they don't have such a kind of settings, okay. They will arrange any kind of business meetings as per their own preferences, or even they do conduct the formal communicate formally they will communicate to another party, and they will arrange the meeting as per their own requirement. In fact, several meetings within meetings may be taking places simultaneously, so they can conduct many of the meetings, okay. Rather than taking the decision, they do involved in the process of communication with their clients, okay, and once the client has been satisfied, they will involved in the process of communication. Orientation to time varies not only among the different countries, but often within a country, within a given country as well. Even people, those who are belonging to different countries, they would have different forms of time orientation, okay, and what time preference that they will prefer to communicate with each other to so as to finish their task on time or reach on time. Several connotations and meanings one can generate over there. So rigid time and fluid time, okay. So fluid rigid time mainly has been associated with the monochronic societies, and fluid time has been associated with the polychronic societies. The last form of dimension of employee behavior would be called as expressive versus reverse. Expressive people tend to be uncomfortable with more than a second or two of silence during the conversation. Expressive people, okay, they will make an hurry to communicate with the other person, okay. They try to express their feelings, emotion, values, or whatever it may be, okay. So they will find some sort of difficulty during the process of conversation or communication, okay. So people from reserve culture, okay, people those who are belonging to reserve culture, they are very quite comfortable, okay, and they will feel at ease with much longer silences. Generally they do not communicate, okay, they will keep a silence for a longer period of time, and due to which, okay, that acts as a bottleneck in the process of communication. Sometimes there will be a conversational overlap, okay, that will refers to the interruption of the speaker by another, okay. When one person has been communicating and another person has been asking some questions, so there will be a conversational overlap would be there, okay, in between these two people, those who are belonging to that expressive versus reserved category of people. Expressive people regard the overlap as a normal part of conversation, okay. Expressive people answer all the queries, okay, which are being asked by any particular person, and they are quite comfortable while communicating with each other. People those who are belonging to any sort of reserved categories, okay, or reserved culture, they will consider overlap would be extremely rude. So they do not like the questions, and they do not welcome these questions, and which they could not mostly answer. So we will find out that there are three types of interpersonal communication that exist. The first one would be called as a verbal communication, which can be generally speaking by means of words and languages. Paraverbal language, okay, that generally can be considered, okay, with how loudly that we can speak with the words, and the meaning of silence and significance of conversational overlap, okay. So sometimes even in many cases we do follow these para language, okay, paraverbal languages in many cases. Even our non-verbal communication with the help of body language and gestures, that could also work sometime, okay. So all these different forms of interpersonal communication skills which are being well versed in the international context of IHRM. So that's all about our today's session. Thank you very much.